Cadillac is in a pretty unique position in the automotive industry because aside from the limited production Celestiq, Cadillac's best-selling vehicle also happens to be their most expensive model, the Escalade. Cadillac sold over 40,000 units in 2024, which is really impressive because a facelift was coming for 2025. And in 2025, Cadillac is really doubling down on this model with the introduction of the electric Escalade IQ and IQL. But they have not forgotten their gas roots or the gas Escalade, as it has received, as I mentioned, a very extensive facelift for the 2025 model year. So let's take a look at everything that is new for this car. So this model that we see here is the top of the line Sport Platinum. So Platinum is like their top end trim level, and then the Sport gives you a little bit more of an aggressive appearance with some black elements like this black mesh grille. The Sport Platinum is like $500 more expensive than just the Platinum trim level. And this model you see sitting here has a sticker price of $125,000, which is about as expensive as standard Escalades get. That's about $2,000 less than the starting price of the Escalade IQ, the electric Escalade, and the Escalade V, which is like this vehicle but with a supercharged 6.2 liter V8. That model starts at around $160,000. So the Escalade is more expensive than ever in 2025. But what's new? That's the story across the automotive industry. But let's dive into the styling, which I think is so sharp with this facelift. The Escalade has always been a very bold and imposing vehicle, and Cadillac has only leaned into that with this facelift. I particularly like this thin light strip they have added up here that's just really angular and aggressive and makes the car look like it's squinting. I think the front end is slightly more aggressive and masculine than it was before. I am definitely a big fan. And then we have slightly revised headlights with this kind of black section of trim right there. And if I were to lock the car and then unlock the car, we'll be able to see the signature dance that the daytime running lights now do when you unlock it. So they go down and then they illuminate, and it looks pretty nice. The taillights do that as well. I am definitely a big fan of this updated Escalade. It is undoubtedly an Escalade, just slightly more aggressive than before around front. Coming along to the side, the changes are less noticeable. 24-inch wheels that you can now option, which this model does have. You know, it really just goes to show how big the Cadillac Escalade is, because these look very proportional on this vehicle, but these are absolutely colossal 24-inch wheels. I do really love how well they fill up the wheel wells. These particular ones are not necessarily my favorite in terms of the design, but I still think the size of them is absolutely perfect for this vehicle. I am a big fan that Cadillac has added these 24-inch wheels, and these are available across GM's full-size SUV lineup now. So Tahoe, Yukon, and Escalade, and the electric model as well, the Escalade IQ, all have 24-inch wheels. They're optional on the gas models, standard on the electric models. The only other change really around the side is the lighting element on the deployable running board, which isn't lit up right now, but it's this little white strip that is now like a solid diffused line instead of having individual LED bulbs, which it used to, which kind of looked cheap if you were looking directly at it. Now it's just a crisp white line, which illuminates at night when the running board deploys. That is definitely a more sophisticated look fitting of a $125,000 vehicle. Around back, the changes are also subtle, more subtle, like the rear, or like the side rather. Really the only thing I can tell, the only way I can tell the 2025 Escalade from a 2024 is this new bar they have running just above the license plate and below the emblem. I actually am not the biggest fan of this. This is the one thing that I prefer the 2024 styling over the 2025. On the non-sport models, this is a chrome strip. It is obviously black here on this Sport Platinum model, and it kind of just is a mustache look in my opinion. Again, not the biggest negative, but it is the one thing I do prefer on the older models. And some things that stay the same. We obviously still have rear glass that pops if I can find the button. There it is. And then you can access the cargo area from the rear glass, which is really nice. Very few cars still do that, so cool to see that the Escalade does. Or you can just press that giant emblem to reveal your cavernous cargo area, which is identical to the last year. And I will put these space figures up right here in terms of cargo capacity. And obviously you can also get the ESV if you need even more space. Locking and then unlocking the Escalade, we can just see the dance that the taillights do. It doesn't come across as well on camera due to the frame rate, but they do the same dance down. And let's climb into the second row of Cadillac Escalade, and I'll make you guys a bit wider as I do so. So another new feature about Cadillac Escalade are the doors. They now have power assist doors, and I think eventually these are supposed to be fully automatic doors, which the IQ had, but as of now they are just power assist, which takes some getting used to. But over the week that I have lived with this Escalade, I have successfully gotten used to them, and I actually do really appreciate them. So basically, what they do is you put your hand in, and then there's a little release button in here, that black button. You press it, and then you pull on it like a normal door, but it will electrically assist you. So with just one finger, I can kind of give it a tug, and then easily, effortlessly continue to open it. Or if I wanted to close it, a little tug to get it going, but then it'll go all the way shut. And they are soft closing doors, and there are the deployable running boards. Definitely jarring when you first use it. People are like, I feel like I'm breaking the door. I've had a lot of guests say that while riding in this vehicle, but I have gotten used to it, and I do kind of like them. I thought the automatic door options on the Escalade IQ weren't very refined, so I do prefer this. And then stepping in to the back of Escalade, you can get a quick demonstration of how ludicrously capacious it is. I'm 6'2", my ideal driving position, plenty of knee room, and sitting upright. My hair is just brushing the seat, but it's a body-on-frame vehicle, so what more could you expect? Now, interestingly, on the back of the center console of the Escalade, we're gonna find no changes for 2025. We have a pair of cup holders that deploy, some inputs for our HDMI ports for these rear screens, and then climate controls and heated seats. That's interesting because on Cadillac Escalade IQ, there is now a new touchscreen back here. The same on GMC Yukon Denali Ultimate, which I was driving a couple weeks ago, also had a large touchscreen back here, but you don't find it in the gas Escalade. I don't exactly know why this doesn't have that. I think it's because there is a new optional executive second row package that you can get on Cadillac Escalade. Finally brings an executive first class experience to the back seats of Cadillac Escalade. And that center console kind of goes into the back of the front of the center console, and then you just see the top of this and you have a screen right here. So maybe that's why this model doesn't have the executive or the new screen on the back of the center console. Although I say that, and the Escalade IQ also has the optional executive second row package with a center console in the second row that connects to the front of the center console or the back of the front center console. But it also has the screen if you don't get the executive second row package. So it's just kind of a weird combination of options that have led to this. I don't exactly know why, but that is my guess. But overall, what I'm really impressed by, another change is the release handles for the second row are these chrome levers. And opening the door, we can kind of focus on the biggest and one of the most impressive changes for Escalade for 2025, and that is all of the materials and touch points and switchgear I feel like are finally elevated clearly over Chevy Tahoe and GMC Yukon. These window switches are Cadillac exclusive. You're not going to find them on, say, the Yukon or the Chevy Tahoe. All of these, like this heathered material, this wood trim, it's not open pore, it's not my favorite, but it's still very elegant to look at. This contrast stitching, this contrast leather material here. And just looking at these seats, everything does really feel very exclusive and a step up from, again, those cars from GMC and Chevy. I'm really impressed, and that only continues up front. Most of the changes truly do happen up front. So let's climb there now using these electrically assisted doors once more. And can we just focus on the materials first and foremost? Again, I just really appreciate the leather, the wood, and even down low, down here where you're really not going to be looking below the knee line, it's still a premium material, and I am impressed by that. I think these seats also look properly luxurious. And climbing in, we can close the door, soft close obviously, and fire up the engine. Good V8 throaty noise straight in the steering wheel. And this is the new look for Cadillac Escalade in 2025. Wow, are there screens aplenty up here. So to start, we have this upper 55-inch display. It's actually two displays. You have your connected instrument cluster and infotainment system under a single pane of glass, which is also shared with this passenger display, which is polarized. So when I put the car in drive, it becomes invisible to the driver and only viewed from the passenger side. And then those upper screens, which is a touchscreen for the passenger display and the infotainment system, or you can use the rotary dial for the center infotainment system, which I do appreciate because I think a rotary dial is the easiest way to operate an infotainment system while driving. And those screens are supplemented by a third touchscreen, this climate control screen, which also has a lot of other functions. It's not necessarily the most intuitive. I would say it's somewhat easy to use while driving for being a touchscreen. It's very clear. It always reverts back to this screen that's up right now. So you can always adjust your temperature and fan speed on the go. So even if you like switch over to, nope, that's just adjusting. See, there's a lot going on. See, even if I switched over to like my seat controls to turn on my heated and cooled seats or my massage, which there are really good massages on the front seats, it will after a time go back to the climate control screen, which I do like. But it's in here that we have a lot of our controls for like our headlights. This is where you open the glove box because there's no button for the glove box, which is a little disappointing. And yeah, so overall, a lot of controls in here. And as you can see, I've been driving this car for a week and it was very clean when I got it. Already a lot of fingerprints on here. And my overall take on this system is it's not the most impressive. Like, this does not scream a luxury vehicle more so than like the old Escalade did. I don't think screens are a luxury solution. Like, it's impressive technology, sure, but I think Lincoln's approach with the pillar-to-pillar display they put in Nautilus and Navigator is a bit more well integrated and more elegant. They managed to incorporate some craftsmanship into that display versus this just really does feel like a lot of screens slapped onto the dash of this Escalade. It's not bad at all, but I think I preferred the old system with that curved 33-inch OLED display. There were two displays for Escalade, and I preferred physical climate controls as well. But what this system has that the Escalade IQ doesn't is it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is huge. Very, very happy to see that. It just displays in a little rectangle like right here, but it is better than nothing because, as I said, the Escalade IQ doesn't have that because General Motors electric vehicles don't have CarPlay. They, it's just a decision they have made, but their gas models still do. So happy to report that. We also have Super Cruise standard on Cadillac Escalade, which I'm also really happy to see. Love Super Cruise. And I actually really love the design of this steering wheel. This is similar to the one found in like Cadillac Lyriq. Very elegant two-spoke design. They're gloss black buttons on the steering wheel, but they're relatively easy to use. Their haptic response. We have a digital rear view mirror, which is definitely nice because this is a lot of vehicle you've got to look back through in order to see what's behind you. And where there aren't screens, again, the craftsmanship in here is elevated over something like the Chevy Tahoe or GMC Yukon. We have these nice they're gloss black, but they are an elevated look for the window switches over those other vehicles. Our gear selector stock is definitely a little more premium looking than the one on those vehicles, as is the turn signal stock. So I do like that Cadillac has separated themselves as a brand. You know, Cadillac Lyriq was the first vehicle to have Cadillac exclusive switchgear, and I think there are still a couple buttons down here that are shared with other GM buttons, but GM cars, sorry, but on the whole, it is definitely a step up. Here we have a wireless charging pad, 2 cup holders, a nice little slot to store your phone. There's also some more storage right here. And lifting up this center console, we have a fridge, which is definitely nice to see. And there's a panoramic sunroof up here as well. So overall, I think the level of quality, the quality increase of Cadillac Escalade is a notable improvement over the 2024 model year. And the screens, while being a bit tacky, I would say, they're not too bad. And I do prefer the quality plus the technology versus the lower quality of, say, the 2024. Not that the Cadillac Escalade was a super low quality vehicle. It's just they really have distinguished the vehicle for the 2025 model year. So on the whole, it is a definite upgrade. So that's everything that's new with the 2025 Cadillac Escalade. You know, it's just a facelift, but it is a pretty extensive one and a pretty impressive one for a company that is also coming out with a full EV lineup. They've unveiled like 4 or 5 all new models in the past year, and including some new models in the Escalade lineup. They are really investing on their new products, and this Cadillac Escalade feels like a healthily new model for the 2025 year. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.